One faction said that the main object is not honor, and they concede that the main object is murder. For we see that all the things that are found upon the earth, grasses, and all plants, and people, and all that is in the whole world must all ultimately cease to exist. Hence the very goal of all things is to be finished off, to be destroyed, to be killed. Therefore, a murderer who kills and destroys people is really bringing the world to its purpose. Therefore, they came to the conclusion that the goal is murder. They looked for a person who would be a murderer, an angry person, and an extremely vengeful person, for such a person is closest to the purpose, according to their deluded mindset, and he deserves to be king. They went looking for such a person, and they heard a shriek. They asked, "What is this, such a screech?" They replied to them, "This shriek is, someone has slaughtered his father and his mother." They spoke up, "Where else can one find such a strong-hearted and angry murderer, that he should murder his own father and mother? This man here, the one who killed his father and mother, has reached the purpose." And they were very pleased with him, and they accepted him as a king over them. And they sought for themselves a country that causes or brings about murder. And they chose a place among mountains where killers abide, and they went there and settled there with their king. A different faction said that worthy of being a king is he who has a great abundance of food and does not eat the fare of other people, but only fine foods. Such a person ought to be a king. However, they could not immediately find such a person who would not eat the foods of other people. In the meantime, they chose for themselves a rich man who had plenty of food, until they would find such a person as they want, who would not eat, etc., as above. And meanwhile, they made the rich man into a king until they would find such a person as they want, as above, and then the rich man would descend from the reign, and the other one would be taken up as a king. And they chose for themselves a country suited for this, and they went and settled there. A different faction said that a beautiful woman is fit to be a king. For the main object is, after all, that the world should be inhabited with people, since for that reason the world was created. And since a beautiful woman brings about that desire, through which the habitation of the world grows greater, since more people come about, it comes out that she brings the world to the goal. Therefore, it is befitting for a beautiful woman to be a king. They chose for themselves a beautiful woman, and she became king over them. And they sought for themselves a land conducive, and they went and settled there. A different faction said that the main objective is speech, because the distinction between man and beast is only speech, and since that is the essential in which a man is greater than a beast, therefore it is the main purpose, speech. They sought for themselves a speaker or a talker who would be eloquent and who would know many languages and would always talk a great deal all the time, for such a person is at the goal. They went and found a French lunatic who was going around and talking to himself. They asked him if he knows languages, and he knew several languages. Now, such a man has certainly already reached the goal, according to their foolish, deluded ideas, since he is a master of language. knows many languages, and talks a great deal, for he talks even to himself. Therefore they were very pleased with him, and they accepted him as a king. And they chose for themselves a land conducive to this, and they went and settled there with their king. And surely he led them on the straight path. A different faction said that the ultimate purpose is happiness. For when a person is born, people are happy. When there's a wedding, people are happy. When conquering a country, people are happy. It follows that the main purpose of everything is only happiness. Therefore they sought a man who would always be happy, for he is at the goal, and he should be king over them. They went searching, and they saw a Gentile going along with a disgusting shirt and carrying a bottle of brandy, while following him were several other Gentiles. And this Gentile was very happy, because he was very drunk. They saw that this Gentile is very happy and has no concern whatsoever, and they were very pleased with him, this Gentile, because he had reached the goal, since the goal is only happiness. They accepted him as a king over them, and surely he led them on the right path. And they chose a land conducive to this, that is, where there are vineyards, so that they would make wine. And from the seeds of the grapes they would make brandy wine. And nothing whatsoever of the grapevine should go to waste, because for them this was the main purpose, to drink and to go drunk, and always be happy, despite not having the faintest idea for what. For they had nothing at all to be happy about, but nevertheless it was the main purpose for them, to always be happy. And they chose for themselves a land conducive to this as above, and they went and settled there. A different faction said that the main thing is wisdom. They sought for themselves a great sage and made him a king over them. And they sought for themselves a land conducive to wisdom, and they went and settled there. A different faction said that the main goal is to cultivate oneself with food and drink, which is called pilevin, in order to enlarge the limbs. And they sought a man of limbs, that is, someone who had large limbs and developed himself enlarge his limbs, the members of his body. For since he had big limbs, he had a larger portion in the world, because he takes up more space in the world. And this man is closer to the purpose, because the purpose is to enlarge the limbs. Therefore, such a person ought to be a king. They went and found a tall man, which is called a vinegar, and he pleased them because he had large limbs and is at the goal. They accepted him as a king, and they sought a land conducive to this. And they went and settled there.